Hello, everyone, you beautiful souls. Welcome to a very special episode in my heart today on Navigating the Healing Path podcast. I'm so excited to be talking about intuition and following your excitement.
I'm really excited for your excitement. That makes me excited.
Nice.
But yeah, I feel like this week's topic is going to be a really fun one. And it feels like what you and I have both been really choosing to live our lives by the past, I think, year, really. It feels like you and I have both been doing a lot of work to continue following and trusting our own intuition and learning how to live a life that's following our joy instead of succumbing to fear. So it's a big fun one.
Okay. As excited as I am, I do feel the need to ground and connect because it will help me.
Same.
So let's just go ahead and take a nice deep breath, bringing our awareness into our body. Sending our energy down into the earth to be rooted and grounded during the duration of this conversation. Another deep breath. I would like to specifically invite Spirit in this regard today because this is about intuition. And while it is a personal thing that we get to experience in our body, we are the receivers of the messages while Spirit can help influence and guide us through that feeling state and knowing. So thank you, Spirit, for being here with us all in our highest good as we learn to connect into our body, to be embodied, to be courageous and feel our feelings and allow that to guide us and inform our inner knowing. Thank you for the clarity. And thank you for the guidance always. Intuition. Intuition lives in my body between my second and no. Where is it? No, it's the gut. It is. It is in my gut because it's like right here. It's like bringing all of my attention into my third chakra, the solar plexus, the one that has the yellow, the yellow lighted one, where we connect to the outside world. Because the intuition ultimately guides us. What's your relationship with your intuition? Let's just start there.
I love my intuition.
Yeah?
I feel like my solar plexus has really been coming online over the last few years. And like I kind of mentioned in the intro, I feel like you and I have really been living by our intuition consciously and strongly this past year. I know you've done it for a much longer amount of time.
It's been a bit longer.
For sure. But
those skills started to really come online for you a year ago, and we consciously began to work on it together and support each other in that knowing.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And my intuition has definitely guided me across all different types of situations throughout my life. But yeah, I guess my current relationship with it is I want to live a life really strongly guided by my intuition. I want to honor it. I want to respect it. I want to hear as much information as I can about what it's telling me and what my North Star is in life. But I was definitely not conditioned to have that type of relationship with my intuition. And this is very new, and it feels very scary to the mind a lot of the times because we aren't raised with this core belief that we can follow our core. You know, we're meant to follow so many things outside of us, and we're not taught that we can trust our own inner guidance. And so growing up, I think I had a much more difficult relationship with my intuition. I kind of felt like it was something that I couldn't trust or that I shouldn't listen to, and that it was more important to listen to the people around me versus myself. But now I feel like my intuition and my solar plexus is like my best friend, and I just want to keep nurturing that relationship and learning as much as I can from my intuition.
So when you first started to connect with it, how did that come about? Like, what led you to uncovering or trusting or learning to listen to? Like, what were these beginning steps as you began to work on this part of yourself?
As like many other answers from topics that we've talked about, I wonder if any of you guys can already guess my answer.
I can. Ooh, me. Pick me.
Okay, you
Was
in
it-
front.
Was it meditation?
Oh my God, it was. How did you know? It 1,000,000% was meditation. Was the main tool that I feel like started to introduce me to what my own intuition felt like and made it hearable. It like made it loud enough, or I guess it did. Meditation didn't make my intuition louder.
Mhm.
I guess it took away the internal mental chatter to a lower volume, so that way the intuition had more space to be heard within me. Yeah, I feel like it. I don't know like the exact timeline, but yeah, I just feel like that natural space opening up within me, my intuition just kind of naturally started to have more of a presence inside of me. And I just naturally have felt more activation and heard more information from it over time.
So, how are you able to discern that it's your intuition and not your mind? What's the difference of feeling or thought? Like, how do you know? You personally.
That is still a distinction that I am actively working on and still trying to learn my body's signals. Because I will say there is a lot that exists in my gut and around my solar plexus. Anxiety has historically lived in there.
Oh, is that where
as
your
well.
anxiety is?
Yeah, it's usually my gut, like in between my gut and my heart. Like it tugs at like the bottom of my heart and chest, and usually, yeah. But I guess the quality of feeling, I don't know. I think the main difference is that usually the mind and like my ego's fears usually exist in the head. Like I feel it in my head, and I don't feel a lot of activation or sensation in my gut or in my stomach. It is subtle. So if you don't have, I guess, consciousness or awareness in your body and are used to or have some familiarity with like feeling the different parts of your body, it would be like that's how I lived my life for a super long time, is that it would be impossible, or it would seem impossible to distinguish. But when I have an intuitive feeling or knowing, I guess it's kind of like a warmth or like almost like a pulling down in my gut, in my solar plexus. But it's a calming or neutral sensation, where anxiety, that usually feels more like a pit in my stomach. But the intuition, while it might feel like a weight in my stomach, it's not this, it just doesn't have that anxious quality to it. But I know it's my mind when it's in, this sounds so obvious and so, I want to use the word silly, but I don't want to use the word silly. Like I feel it in my head, and it's a lot more racy, and it doesn't feel neutral. It doesn't feel calm. It feels like it needs something.
Mm-hmm.
Where my intuition, it's a gentle suggestion. It's a quiet whisper, but a loving whisper. This is hard to explain.
Well, this is why it's so good to practice.
Yeah.
Because like you go from the internal work and feeling it and noticing it, and then when you get to speak it, it helps you see it and integrate it in a way that it becomes more accessible and known to you.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I keep asking you all these questions, because I want you to look at it.
Yeah, thank you. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting. My mind goes to the anxiety. And in the third chakra, because that is how we connect to the outside world, how we show up. And you've talked about having social anxiety, about going out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this would come in there where your intuition lives, which is kind of like partly your guidance system. And it's being clouded by fear. Ultimately, I do believe anxiety is a lot of fear. Right?
Yes.
Fear of being seen, being ridiculed, or a number of other things that you can fear of, like connecting with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so
fear of rejection. I feel like
right.
That's one of my main ones.
Yeah. So it's good to be able to clear that out. That's why the meditation helps, because you have a pathway to send that excess energy that's being churned up by your mind. It has a way out so that can get cleared, so that you can be clear in your knowing of where to go, who's good for you, is this a good opportunity, so you can have that knowing. So it's really beneficial, because it's part of the, well, how do I have all of these options? There's a lot of us might not have a lot of opportunities, but sometimes we do. Or sometimes we just have the one, and we just have to make a decision on, is this right for me? Is this something that I should explore further? And there really is no wrong answer, just experiment and try it out. But learning to play games with yourself and bringing this online, like that's how Spirit loves to teach a lot through playing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I help other people tap into their intuition, we can have games. Like the one person, I said they were going to a casino. I'm like, oh, play with your intuition at a casino.
That would be awesome.
Right? And just learn how to listen. But you want to ground, you want to clear, you want to quiet the mind so that you can listen and feel. And like, is there something that lights up, or something that really gets your attention? That's also another like little clue, is where am I naturally drawn to? And you can look at it and then keep looking around. But if your eyes keep coming right back to that number, or that whatever it is, play with it, trust it. Who knows? Like it's you go, it's entertainment. And like when you're playing and growing this skill, right? So you don't have any stakes. Keep it low.
Yeah.
Especially
if you're at a casino.
Yes. Expect to lose, because the house tends to win. But miracles can happen. The person that I did tell this to, he won.
Let's go.
He came back with a bunch more money than he left there with. But his intuition was already sort of like on, and he was just sort of playing with it and learning to trust it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
I think playing those games is a really great way to build trust while keeping it light and enjoyable. I just did this the other day, but one of my favorite things to do, and one of the ways that I feel like I've helped strengthen my own intuition and being able to distinguish its voice from other aspects of my internal self, is just driving home or driving to places that I don't need directions for specifically, because I've been to a good number of times. But what way do I want to take tonight? which street, which route am I drawn to? I just like to like feel into if there's one that I'm drawn to or not. And sometimes there will be fun signs that I find going down a route that I choose, like a fun sequence of numbers on a license plate because I went that way, or just like a whole string of green lights, you know. There's so many different ways to play, and it's just so much fun.
I think that's a really good foundation in this work. We can't take it too seriously because even as I was working on like my intuition and knowing and being the empath and feeling what's happening as I like hold space and share light and we talk and everything, it's also okay to be wrong. You don't always have to, you're not batting 1,000 here. You don't have to get every single time right. That's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is to play, playing with it, being lighthearted. It's not a serious thing. It's just sort of another tool to help you on your path to know where to go. Because there really is no wrong way to go.
Mm-mm.
Okay? Just sometimes you might hit a detour or you might hit a pothole and oh shit, I need a new tire. You know what I mean? But there's going to be something for you on that long way detour anyway. So sometimes, even when things quote unquote go wrong, it is actually what you needed in your highest good to meet somebody, to get the next tool you need. So approaching it without judgment is going to help you learn to go with the flow, to accept what is, the art of allowing, right? And trust that you're always where you need to be when you need to be there, even if how you got there fucking sucked. But there's a reason why you went there, whether it was perspective or you needed an upgrade.
Yeah. I have a personal story
Uh-huh.
which I kind of want to bring into this space, and
Okay.
it will there's another thing in the back of my mind that I kind of want to touch on, the distinction between intuition, anxiety, but then also excitement.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind if I
Please.
share some things? Okay. Yeah, on that note of like following intuition and trusting where it's leading, even if it seems like it's going in a completely different direction or it makes it seem like we went down the wrong path. My living situation for the past year has been a very interesting journey and pathway that I feel like I don't fully cognitively understand why I made the decision that I made. But I was in a good housing situation, nice, relatively cheap, affordable rent for the area with some friends last year. But I kept feeling this incredibly strong feeling in my gut to go and live with another friend of mine. He was getting this nice place. It was a really nice apartment in more of the city versus the suburbs. I've lived in pretty much suburbs my whole life, except for I guess college. It was still a suburb area, but I couldn't tell why I was so drawn to moving out when it was already such a nice living situation that made sense, but I couldn't shake the feeling. And so I decided to move. And some interesting events unfolded. like like what was it? I think 2 months, a little bit less than 2 months after I moved, I got laid off from my job, and the rent was much higher compared to what I was paying before. And I was like, what? What the heck am I gonna do? And it just kind of feels like the whole year. Spoiler alert: I'm still technically sort of unemployed, and it's been just very interesting to experience all the things that I've experienced over the past year with money and finances and learning to trust that I have exactly what I need to live and to be safe at all times. I feel like that's really been the overarching lesson. But I ended up not being able to continue to afford living there after the year lease ended. And so I was like, okay, now I'm being called to go back to where I was before. And I couldn't shake that feeling. But I was just, it was just a lot of asking and a lot of weirdness to the way that I was raised. Because when I was moving out, I had like family, mainly family, asking me, why would you leave that situation? Like, can you even afford it? What are you doing? What the heck? And I feel like I got less of that when I was moving back, but I don't have a good explanation for anything other than I just feel like I was getting told to. And so I did. But I don't quite know what the point is here. I just wanted to share that. But I guess with all of the noise around me and all of the challenges that came up in that year and trying to figure out my finances and just all of this stuff, like I feel like to the outside, it kind of seemed like I made a poor decision, like to the normal world, like an illogical, impractical decision. But that is what I was being told to do in my core. And that's what felt like was the best decision for my growth, even if I didn't understand what that growth is and still technically don't, at least to like its full extent. But I feel like even if we get, as you said, on these detours, there's so much there that we learn, that we pick up, different tools, different resources, different lessons. Even if we never fully consciously realize or digest them all, I feel like our spirit is always picking all of those things up for us. And, you know, maybe I don't need to consciously fully understand why I made the decisions that I made, but I can go to sleep knowing that I don't have any regrets of not doing something because I followed what I felt I needed to follow. And I think that is, for me, is a much more fulfilling and nurturing way to live than following external voices and forces.
Absolutely. I love all of that.
Thanks for letting me share.
Can I offer a little bit of my insight from an outsider watching you do this?
Please, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you've been a huge hand in helping me, like, figure out what is my intuition, if these are the decisions that I should be making for myself, or that not should be, but you have helped a lot in helping me identify my intuition and how to follow it. So please, please.
So because we've been working together for several years, and this happened, you know, after we had already established our working, you know, relationship and how I support and help.
Mm-hmm.
When you were beginning to explore the idea of moving to the apartment, I do remember your confusion on like, but why? You know? And I remember there being a number of reasons why, but also what I noticed in myself is this, it was my intuition being like, yeah, totally. Absolutely, you should. A lot because I wanted to support you in following your intuition, but it was also what was coming through for me. Like, this makes sense to me. I'm not society or culture or your parents or anything.
Right.
Just as a spirit navigating their life, you talking about this opportunity that you want to create for yourself made a lot of sense in my body. So I was on board, like, yeah, I don't know what it is you're going to get there, but I know you're going to be doing work, right? And that is what I observed the entire time. I know you spoke a lot about being isolated, and
Yeah.
you got to my biggest takeaway from this is you got to observe and notice how you feel in that high rise city living next to a highway. So you placed yourself in an unusual environment to see how you respond.
Mm-hmm.
And with the isolation, it wasn't because of anything bad. It was just because that was what you needed, that space to explore your inner self, to feel yourself, to also, in a way, be triggered by your roommate. Because he brought up a lot of things that you got to look at.
He did, yeah.
And you got to work on your boundaries and your communication and all of these skills that your soul signed up to learn. And in order for you to learn those specific skills and to practice the new tools that you've been collecting over the years, that was your testing ground.
Mm.
So you followed it. And granted, during it, you're like, what the fuck? What am I doing? What's happening? Why is this? Who is that? All of these questions come up, but you did the work. You were exploring, you were asking, you were writing, you were meditating, you were talking with all of us in our group about, look at this. And they're all like, yeah, that's there. And it's great. So you got to experience that short time. And really, as a year is nothing.
It feels like it didn't happen.
It
Like the
was
second that I moved back, I was like, what reality was that? What the fuck?
But at the time, it made sense.
Yeah.
Because other roommates were leaving. It sort of felt like a natural progression. And you just followed this feeling and you explored it to its fullest so that when the timing, the divine timing comes up and the calling comes back of, oh, the time here is done. And we all felt that in the group as well. Like when you were starting to be on the point of, I don't think I want to be here anymore. I think I want to be back in nature. I want to be able to go hiking and going to the beach and doing these things. And you weren't able to connect that way where you were. And that it kind of drew you back. But you're not the same moving back to where you are now than you were when you left. You really shifted.
That's true. I feel, I don't even know how I felt a year ago, to be honest with you. Like when I was living in the previous space. I remember the vibe of like living in the apartment. Like there's a very specific quality that I feel when I think about that. And I can remember that, but I feel very disconnected from how I felt before.
Okay.
Not disconnected. Sorry, I'm saying that to acknowledge that I have grown and that I am a different person. That was the whole point.
Got it.
You seemed concerned for a moment.
No, I wasn't sure I was following. But yeah. Yeah. I also, the feeling that I have is you don't have to know all of the answers right now.
Right. Yes.
That's what time provides and that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes like I didn't understand a lot of college. Like when I was in college, it was like, oh my God, this is so much. And it was painful, but it was also really kind of great. It wasn't until I was gone for a little while where I was able to look back and be like, oh, that's what I got. So you don't want to judge things at all, really, in my mind, but too prematurely, like, because you really consciously, it's hard for the mind to grapple all of the spiritual journey stuff and understanding why we had to be there or have that experience or have even that other person be really awful to us.
Very true.
You don't always know until you're quite far down the road on the other side. So just sort of like let it go and be open because when you need that information, poof, it's there. Because you have that experience, you have that baseline. So when those lessons come into play, it's ready and primed for you to use. Mm-hmm. But there was a lot of internal work and shifting of programs, of perspective, of your faith, your beliefs. There was a lot
I do really
that
feel
you did.
like, yeah, thank you. Thank you for all of that. I do really feel like the last year, if nothing else, and I know there's so much, there's so much, and I'm excited to receive insights as I need insights on that time of my life. But it really did feel like a strengthening and lesson in building my faith
Mm-hmm.
and learning to trust and to also play with how much can I receive?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the whole time I do feel like there was this low lull of anxiety. I don't know if lull is the right word, but this quiet frequency in the background, like the whole time of being there, of anxiety and not knowing how I'm going to pay for things. But magically, I didn't miss a single month's worth of rent. The entire time that I was there, I was able to pay for all of my bills somehow without having a job. Yeah. Granted, I am incredibly fortunate and privileged enough to have had a good few years of work that I was able to put a decent amount into savings, which really, really helped me during that time. And shout out unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
We love a governmental system sometimes.
We need support from here and again.
Yes, we
now
do.
and again.
Yeah, and some other things, and also just for, I don't know, the people in my life that were just gracious and loving enough to, help me where I needed help.
You also were open to the miracles of abundance. Because, like, abundance, if you think about it, it's not just I have $1 million in my bank account. Abundance is the ability to pay for something when you need it.
Yeah.
These like little jobs would come in. An editing job here, working for your uncle there, having the rest of like there's always
dog sitting.
Yeah. There was always
these little moments.
Something coming in to support you.
Yeah.
And that was the faith work, the trust that I am supported by Earth and the universe, that it has my back.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a lot of also what you worked on, is opening yourself to receive the support and abundance that's accessible to all of us.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always come in the way that we really want. Like, I've been envisioning just a suitcase of money just showing up on my front porch. I mean, somewhere in some universe, that's a possibility. Why not? I'm just going to attach to that one a little bit, or connect just for funsies. I don't know. I just don't want to limit the possibilities, because our human mind cannot even fathom the kind of gifts and blessings that spirit can make happen. So you were beginning to play and open yourself to more and more possibilities, and just having faith that things are going to work out for you.
Yeah. Yes.
And it did.
It did.
Consistently.
Ugh.
Even though you were worried and looking at the fear, but again, that's why it was there.
Mm-hmm.
It was there to help you bring that up so that you can acknowledge it. Like, okay, I am having fear around this. And then we ask questions. What's the fear about? What are you fearing? What is it? And then you hold space around that. And the more that you hold space around the fear, it dissipates. Because you give it things like, yes, but I'm also really resilient. And did you also know, mind, that I have a really good support system? And did you also know, mind, that I am really connected to spirit and they have my back? So it's treating yourself and calming your mind and your system in order to let go of the resistances. Because once you let go of the resistance, it is able to flow.
Yeah. Yes. Beautifully said. Quick note that I want to share as you were talking about that, and then I have a question for you on that, like, intuition, anxiety, and excitement distinction. But yeah, I guess my final note on this is, I think There's something really to be said about location in life and where we are, because with trusting that faith that everything is always provided for me, I like looking at where I live now, being back in that like stable, comforting, grounded place that is a lot more surrounded with nature, and I'm with people that I feel really, really aligned and comfortable and free around. I think a large part of that anxiety where I was living before, especially being on like the fourth floor of a building instead of the ground floor, I think there really is something to environment and our own personal frequency and just feeling that connection to source where we are. Because I'm still in arguably a worse financial situation now than I was the entire time that I lived at the apartment. I am paying less, which I feel like that has helped to lower some of the anxiety. But for some reason, being here now, back at this place, I don't feel that same quiet, buzzing anxiety in the background that I did the whole time that I was in that apartment. So I don't know. I don't know if that's like location or just like something else or just like all of the other factors going on. But I just kind of wanted to like note that, I guess,
it feels
for myself.
What I'm hearing when you say that is it feels like this last move was the right thing for you.
Yeah, because I don't even question now that, yeah, I'll figure it out. I'll have what I need when I need it.
Oh my God.
Like I'm not
amazing.
concerned. Like, why am I not concerned? Like, I feel like I didn't do anything other than just moved. But like it was a constant like pressure on like my chest or like a pit in my stomach, and not the good weight, not the good pit. I don't know. It's so bizarre.
I think that's just testament to your growth. Because I remember having conversations about your anxiety and like, oh my God, should I do this? This is going against what society and culture and my family is saying. And am I wrong for this? But you've gone through this whole year-long process of self-exploration and discovery and releasing the old programs that cause that anxiety. You've done so much work that now, while the external situation hasn't exactly changed except for location, you are shifted internally. And so that's the magic of manifestation, is if you can shift and adjust your internal state of being, the external will follow suit. It will express itself in the right timing for you. But it's about the consistency, the commitment to yourself and your growth, and being open to the opportunities and possibilities that present themselves. And then allowing your intuition to help guide you to the right next thing for you.
Yeah.
So, yes, on the outside, it doesn't look different. But that's the invisible work that we do as we heal and as we shift ourselves. That's how you can tell that you've really made some progress. But unless people are attuned to it and they've done the work, they're not going to be able to see what you've been doing. But all of us, like in our like little Sunday group, we can all see it plain as day. And we're constantly highlighting it for each other. Like, you guys see that? Did you see the growth? Did you see how shifted she sounded? That is not the normal language that she's been using, is it? Listen to that self-awareness. It's fucking magical.
I love how we do that for each other all the time.
I love it. Like, I get so high when I'm done with meeting with you guys. I just feel so good and aligned and connected.
Yeah. Same.
So, yeah, you did an intensive. I would call that like an intensive workshop with you. you know.
I love that.
Yeah.
That resonates.
That was a really like master's class course of inner work.
Huh.
And you had to put yourself in that situation in order to connect and unlock it. You
Right.
had to. I don't think you could have done that in the safety of where you are now with your friends. You needed to be challenged. You needed to be able to see things. And you had exactly what you need. That's why you had to go. And it's okay to question. It's okay to be like, why the hell am I doing this? Good question. Why the hell are you doing this? I don't know. Great. Write about it. Keep looking. Keep being curious about it. Answers will come eventually. Just maybe not right now. So just be patient. Play the game. See it through until yourself says, okay, next. And it's just funny how the information starts to come in. That's why the meditation's helpful, because you can ground yourself. You can get rid of that anxiety. You can give it a place to go so you can quiet everything so you can learn to listen to yourself. So you did a really good job this last year.
Well, thank you.
You've grown a lot, remarkably so. And I give you gold stars.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I give you them back tenfold.
Oh, thank you. I received that.
Hell yeah. Yeah, God, you've grown so much too. We've been through so much together this last year.
Yes.
Life. Life is crazy. But okay. Before we get sidetracked.
I know we can get into these compliment fests. Like, it's just so nice.
I know.
So,
I know
yeah.
it's lovely.
ask your question.
Okay, cool. So with that story being shared, I wanted to ask about, I guess, the distinction, because you asked me about what's the difference between like the mind and the intuition feeling in the body. I've noticed that, you know, because I mentioned my anxiety also lives in my gut with my intuition, or like next to my intuition, but excitement also lives there. And I feel like excitement isn't always intuition completely. It sometimes feels like maybe a different, maybe not like a different entity, or maybe it's just, maybe I think it's a different entity because I feel like anxiety is different, and sometimes anxiety can feel like excitement and excitement can feel like anxiety. So that's kind of where my question is for you, because when I was trying to figure out if I should move a year ago to the apartment, I feel like I was really confused on, am I really anxious about this because this is a bad decision for me? Or am I feeling excitement towards the possibility of something new? And so I guess my question for you is, do you have any information on distinguishing
I do.
that?
I love this question.
Cool.
Because this is something exactly that I wanted to share. We're
so aligned.
Totally. Totally. Our channel, our guides are in cahoots.
Oh, totally.
Totally.
They're just at this big round table. Just being like, oh, yeah, that now. Go, go, go.
Because you always tend to have the questions, like, I'll have an inkling, like, I'll get, like, a little message come through of, like, be sure to talk about this. But I also want to hold space for you. But then inevitably, every episode, as soon as I'm done holding space for you, you get to share and we get to, you know, have this conversation. You come in with the question that my guides wanted me to talk about.
Yeah. And like, we don't discuss
Nothing.
We have no idea what's going to happen in these conversations.
We
just
topic.
show up and we talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
So magic.
So I first learned about the distinction through Bashar. My good friend Tara was drawn to bring me to one of these events because she goes, of anybody I know, you're most open and not judgmental, and I want to share this with you. And I was like, what is it? He goes, this guy, he channels an alien, right? He channels this guy named Bashar who's here to help humanity. You can look him up. He's everywhere on Instagram, at least in my feed.
I love Bashar.
I love Bashar.
And the channeler, Daryl.
Oh, yes. It was so good. When I heard him talk about this, it made so much sense to me because I've always been highly intuitive. I've just been secretive about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I also didn't know that's what it was. It was just part of me, right? But the way that he described it is because it's like your intuition is your guidance system, right? It's how you know where to go. In order to tap into it, if you're not accustomed through your third eye of seeing things or feeling things, your intuition is very much feeling based. And one of its biggest signs, like if you think of like excitement as the road sign, like next stop 10 miles, the excitement is what gets your attention to what your soul wants you to experience. Anxiety comes in when fear is masking that excitement.
Okay.
So anxiety is just that. So you're excited to go out to a bar and hang out with your friends, or go to this theater show, or like whatever it is, like you're excited, but then the social anxiety comes in. Because you're like, you want to do this, you want to connect, you want to have this really cool experience of art and culture and camaraderie, but then the anxiety is like, oh no, stay home, don't go anywhere, because that's the fear of being rejected, being seen, being ridiculed, all the fears that come through vulnerability. So when I started to see anxiety as excitement masked by fear, I was like, oh shit, you can do something with that. You just have to acknowledge the fear. What are you so afraid of? Are these people like that? Do you trust these people? And if you don't, then maybe get new people.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the anxiety can tell you things as well. Sometimes who's not good for you, right? Think about, you've talked about when you have conversations with me, how open you are, how when you talk about spirituality or these things that you're thinking, it's so much easier because you have experience of me of being open and not judgmental. Like I will never think anybody's crazy if they're telling me they're talking to spirits, or, they're going to go do this thing because they're really excited. Like I don't judge, right? You go do you.
You do not.
So you notice when you're around other people, if that part of you feels lidded, right?
Yeah.
And we could trust that because not everybody, where they are on their journey, is trustworthy to be respectful of your sensitivities, right? That's why boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
That's why knowing who your people are and who are not your people. And we're going to have plenty of not our people, but we don't need to be best friends with everybody either. So that's my answer to the differences between intuition, anxiety, and excitement. Excitement is what we're meant to follow. That is how we know we're on our path, if you're excited about it. I really don't think it can lead you wrong. I really don't. Because, even if things go badly and there's an accident or something happens, it was still meant to show you something, teach you a lesson, give you something new. It's, yeah, excitement, following your excitement. That's Bashar's rule. That's what he tells literally everybody. Follow your excitement. It's there trying to lead you and guide you to your highest good.
Yeah. Yeah. And usually that's our compass for living the most aligned and best feeling life, and arguably most fulfilling, is to follow our excitement.
Because what's on the other side of that? You finally get there, you get to experience joy and connection and peace and flow. That to me is what's on the other side of excitement. Finding yourself, pieces of you, having these lessons and this information that helps to enrich and deepen your human experience. And it's just learning the coping tools along the way to deal. Because I've been telling my daughter this. It's like, assume that everything is going to work out in your highest good. Even if it doesn't look that way. Assume it will. Because it very well is.
Yeah.
So all of that to say, what I've learned to do was, once I really connected to my intuition and learned to actually trust it. This came through therapy. She's like, you can trust your feelings. I'm like, oh, what? I
Game
was told I
changing.
cannot trust my feelings. And so a lot of the work I had was learning to trust my feelings,
Mhm.
my inner knowing. So I love what my teacher had given me back then was you take your intuition that is rooted and grounded in your solar plexus, but you connect it to your heart, right? Because that's my intention, living a heart-based life, speaking my truth through love and all of that. So I've connected like consciously through meditation, connecting that intuition in my third chakra with the love of my in my fourth chakra, and they meet in the middle, like just below my xiphoid process in my diaphragm.
Hmm.
And so whenever I think of my GPS, like my guidance system, it's there. It resides between the third and fourth chakras, connecting the earthiness, the grounded rootedness with the gateway to spirit, right? So that's how I've learned to use my system so that I know the choices I make are always in my highest good because my heart is connected to it, and I'm trusting the guidance within my body to know what's right for me.
Hmm.
And only I can know that. And this is the thing. Nobody can tell anybody else what's in their best interest. Only the person living the life knows what's best for them. So it's good to take the advice and like all the possibilities, but ultimately being quiet and going within and listening to your body and what is exciting, what feels right. Because you can use visualization, you can imagine the different paths. Notice if one is different. Is one lighter? Is one more enticing and is drawing you in? You feel compelled to follow that. You can learn to trust those feelings and have fun and play with it. That's the best advice I have for that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you connected your solar plexus and your heart chakra together. Like, just like to have that bridge between them to be connected to the earth and to be open to spirit and the divine above and with the rest of the higher chakras. I don't know, that makes so much sense to me because it really does feel like the strongest guiding parts of myself are definitely my heart and my solar plexus. Like these are my core. I want to listen to these two as much as I possibly can because I feel like they are just like the best compass and they give me such great information and guidance and nudges in just more loving, fulfilling, and genuine directions than anything that my brain could ever tell me.
Which is why it's so important and really beneficial to be embodied, to be connected to your physical body. But I know for a lot of us growing up, it was not safe. We couldn't trust our own bodies.
We are taught so much to listen to logic,
and other
practicality,
people.
and other people. Yeah.
So this is an unlearning and learning to trust our inner knowing. And it's definitely a process. And be gentle and compassionate with yourself while you do it.
Yes.
But I do love that you've been able to achieve that comfort. It's really comforting.
It is. I feel a lot more able to feel confident in myself and my decisions through practicing trusting my intuition. And that's been huge. And I know you mentioned like my social anxiety before. I feel like my social anxiety has decreased so much in the last few years. And a good chunk of that is probably the meditation and the coping tools. But there's this certain level of self-trust that's arisen. And so even in moments where I feel anxious, I now know that I can trust myself and that I can trust whatever situation I find myself in because I truly believe that there is always something for me and for whoever else is involved in whatever moment of life. It's very nice.
It really is. And I want you to understand that what you're just talking about with trust
Mm-hmm.
is a skill. That is not inherent. In fact, a lot of us are taught not to trust other people because they might want to fuck you over or take something or manipulate, use, abuse, whatever it is.
Our intuition is great at pointing that stuff out, by the way.
Sure is, if you know how to listen to it and
Yeah.
avoid those situations.
Yeah.
But learning to trust is for a lot of people on the healing journey because you've been harmed. And sometimes you were harmed by your family and your closest people. The people you're supposed to trust to take care of you did not.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that that's forever, that that's a permanent fixture in your life. That will only serve to keep you disconnected and stuck and unhappy. So as dangerous as it sounds to the mind to trust other people, especially even yourself, it is greatly beneficial to your life as a whole because you can learn to use it to make sure that you're always in the best situation for you. So it really does benefit you, but it's also really, really hard work, and I give you a lot of credit for that. So
Thank you.
good on you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Credit to everybody else out there as well that's right there along with us.
Keep working on that trust. I know it's really scary and hard when you've been hurt a lot, but you can trust people. My one teacher used to say, I trust everybody. I trust them to be themselves, which is why it's helpful to know how to read people. Where are they on their journey? Do they have self-awareness and respect? Are they able to communicate? Do they have a modicum of emotional maturity? You know, I trust, like we had like a house sitter, just like a family friend, but we knew that they had a drinking issue. And so when we came home, our wine was gone and a very special bottle of wine.
Ugh,
right?
that
But it's
sucks.
also like, well, fuck, of course. It's like I'm not necessarily gonna trust a drug addict to watch my dogs and not have something go missing. You know, like addiction is a nasty monster. You know what I mean? And it doesn't always make you act in the most kind ways for other people. So I trust people to be who they are, where they are. That's why I have boundaries. So, yeah, I could trust everybody to be themselves.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that sounds like a very, very solid, grounded, and protecting mantra.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So I think we are going to wrap up this first part of the intuition and following your excitement conversation. As always, we have so much more that we are so excited to share. But thank you to everyone who has stuck around this far into the conversation. And if you are looking forward to next week, we will be diving more into Nicki's journey with how her relationship with her intuition has unfolded across her life. And we'll be getting into more, I don't want to say like practical, but
like
more
daily
like
life.
Like, yeah, the point that we're at right now is making the conscious choice every day to show up, follow our intuition, and to figure out how to build a life that is based around following our own excitement, because we are currently right in the middle of building that new foundation
Hell yeah.
creating a whole new reality for ourselves outside of what a lot of us were raised and inundated with. So we would love if you guys joined us next week for that part 2 of the conversation. But until then, you can find us on Patreon for some more exclusive content. Links down below. And we hope that you have a fabulous week.
Have a beautiful week, everybody. Till next time.